Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating piece of political messaging from Fox News' Sean Hannity. It's all about the U.S. stance on Iran during a period of intense civil unrest. We're going to break down how this powerful message was put together, piece by piece.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First up, we'll look at how the broadcast sets the scene, the crisis in Iran. Then, we'll get into the three main tools the U.S. puts on the table: talking, money, and military might. And to wrap it all up, we'll look at the big, powerful message that ties it all together.
So before you can even talk about a response, you have to frame the problem, right? And for this broadcast, it all starts right there on the streets with a nation deep in protest.
Right out of the gate, you got to pay attention to the words they're using. Incredible footage, regular people. That's not by accident. This language is meant to frame the whole thing as a genuine grassroots movement, the people rising up against their government.
And then, boom, the stakes get raised, fast, by throwing out these really stark numbers. 2,000 civilians allegedly killed, hospitals and morgues overflowing. It paints this picture of a super violent, urgent crisis. It's a situation that basically screams for some kind of response.
Okay, so with the stage set like that, what's the first move? Well, according to this broadcast, the first tool that gets pulled out of the toolbox is diplomacy, an offer to sit down and talk. And to deliver this diplomatic option, they use a direct quote from President Trump. It's very clear, almost casual, and it suggests that talks aren't just some vague possibility, but something that's actually in the works. This is the olive branch being extended.
But just when you think it's that simple, the press secretary's statement comes in and throws a wrench in the works. It brings up this idea that what Iran says in public isn't what they're saying in private. All of a sudden, we're not just talking about simple negotiations. We're in a world of back channels and political intrigue.
So diplomacy is on the table, but right after that, the broadcast pivots to the second big lever of pressure: really severe economic consequences. And this isn't just a hint. It's presented as a very serious, hardline threat.
At the very heart of this whole economic threat is one simple, powerful number: 25%. Think about that. It's a number that's really easy to remember, and it's designed to signal some very, very serious intentions. But what does it actually mean in practice?
And here's where that number gets its teeth. It's a tariff, but it's not just on Iran. No, it's on any country that does business with Iran. And listen to the language they use: final and conclusive. There's zero wiggle room there. The message is crystal clear. The goal is to completely isolate Iran's government financially.
So we've had the carrot of diplomacy and the stick of economics, and that brings us to the third and, well, the most forceful lever described in this segment: the military option.
You can really see how the broadcast builds this threat step by step. It's not just a random mention. First, a briefing on military options, then a very stark travel warning, and finally, the direct confirmation everything is on the table. Each step is shown as a deliberate move, just ratcheting up the military pressure.
And here you can see the two sides of the coin, right? On one hand, you have the door left wide open for talks. But on the other hand, there's this really blunt statement that using military force is absolutely a real possibility. It's that classic carrot and stick approach, laid out for everyone to see.
Now, to make this threat feel less like an idea and more like a reality, the broadcast brings up a specific operation with a name. By referencing Operation Midnight Hammer and claiming it obliterated Iran's nuclear program, they're providing a very recent, very concrete example of what U.S. military action might actually look like.
And then this statement from the press secretary adds the final layer to the whole thing: strategic uncertainty. The message here is basically, you have no idea what we'll do next. And of course, that's designed to keep the other side completely on edge. So, let's put all these pieces together. You have the crisis, the offer to talk, the economic threats, the military posturing. How does the broadcast wrap all of this up into one single takeaway message?
This is a really significant moment. The host starts talking directly to people who might be watching inside Iran. By doing this, the broadcast itself becomes a tool in the conflict. It's positioned as a direct line of information and, you could say, support for the protesters, completely bypassing the Iranian state.
And this slide right here, this really sums up the whole thing. This is the core message being sent. It's a comprehensive, three-pronged strategy. You've got the path for talks, the threat of economic disaster, and the explicit option of military force, all sitting there together. This is literally the definition of putting everything on the table.
So in the end, the broadcast constructs this really powerful posture of, you could call it strategic ambiguity and maximum pressure.
By putting all of these options out there, it forces everyone, the Iranian government, its people, and the entire world to guess what the real intentions are, behind a policy where, truly, it seems like anything is possible.